Piece of ass.
Hello and welcome to the Gooners podcast. Our viewers went down during that 40 seconds.
We started with 500 people, and then by the end of the introduction, there was 4.
When you just said to me right before you hit play is start thinking of season 7's intro. I think it's going to be literally and then done. It's all of us in there and then finish.
I was on Tom Canton's podcast last night, and the beginning is like, and then it's him. It was literally 2 seconds long.
Has Tom ever commented on our intro where we blatantly call him not media, even though he just landed the whale of Emmanuel Petit this week?
That was the whale that I was riding on our introduction video. It wasn't a dolphin. It was Emmanuel Petit in Jamaica.
You were just riding on his ponytail.
I was, and there's no other ponytail I would rather ride on. I'll tell you. So
Gerrard has voted for a shorter intro, thus we will make it longer.
Yes,
he's not even in it. That's probably why he hates it.
We're the contrarian podcast. We're just going to talk about Woolwich Arsenal today, and that's it. So Andy,
yes,
you're we don't pod as often on our own channel anymore, but you've been around actually most of the recent pods. I think you're batting about 500, as we call it, on recent podcasts. So
yeah.
Life update. How's everything going? Your son bar mitzvah coming up?
Yeah, we got a couple weeks. No, we got about a month, and then we're into year 5. But otherwise, life is good. Really busy. Owen and I have literally not talked face to face for about 3 months, so it was good to see him. Had a little catch up before we went live.
Speaking of Owen, do you know why his name is Owen? I finally figured it out.
No,
because he be owing me some money.
Oh, Jesus.
That's the only way I'm going to remind him, and I know he knows, and I know he's got a lot going on. Which is
why does he owe you money?
He knows.
It's a sensitive subject.
Oh, because I take credit on OnlyFans, and it's really it's accumulated to the point.
Makes the type of dude that invites you to London. Lets you stay on a sofa and then invoices you to try and pay for the Airbnb after you leave.
I tried to tell them that you were the one that broke the toilet seat. I have responsibility for the seats in the living room because those are on video. I said those are on video. Hold on a second. Where is it?
Mike broke the chair, man.
While Mike's finding that, and I hope I don't get canceled.
Mike broke the chair.
But there's no one that could tell me that you didn't break the toilet seat. I mean, it came off when I sat down on it, but I think you were the one that got it started.
Yeah.
Owen, don't stand between a Jew and his money. Okay, there will be goons showing up at your door very soon.
He's a
we call them Junes, not goons.
This guy's got 2 mortgages he's got to pay for now, right? He needs
almost, The longer the house takes, the longer I got to wait. And the good news is mortgage interest rates have only gone up by 8% in the last 3 months. So.
When is that going to be finished, Mike? And when are we going to do our first Gooners podcast retreat?
Poolside? Probably be finished in late summer. And so this winter will be the first kind of let's all get the hell out of the cold and go down to Florida, gathering type of situation. So
Didn't you end
And
the pod once where you ran and jumped into the pool?
yes, that was at my in-laws' house though.
Yeah.
That was I think the last pod we did with B, right after Emery got fired, sacked, and I jumped in the pool out of sheer joy, and it was a little cold, I think. But in any case, Owen, you're back. Let everybody know. I mean, I've gotten a lot of questions, a lot of comments in YouTube. You know, the comments of the video, and just people essentially crying out for more Owen and where have you been? And I've tried to tell them, but then I'm like, maybe he's just bullshitting us.
Wait, you made up stories about me. What did you tell him about Owen?
I'm not going to tell Owen that he got divorced or an annulment because look at him, he's hot.
No, well, look, after about 2 months of trying to get rid of his and make his go away and continuously leaving WhatsApp groups and getting added back into them, he's never got the fucking hint once. So I had to make up some excuse. No, the truth is that
he has a new background just to throw us off.
Yeah. No, I bought a house, I'm having a baby, and I sold my pool table. So it's been eventful.
That sounds like the beginning of like a country song.
I was about to say, so out of all of those things, Owen's most upset about the pool table.
The pool table for
and
sure.
That's where he couldn't just stand to be
I'm having a pool table. I sold my baby.
Well, look, never rule anything out. You know, there's going to be funds needed raised somehow to get me a new pool table, so I'll never.
I may just cancel the loan that you owe, and then.
But this is what it means. So the money's obviously for a ticket that Mike forked out for whilst we were over, and I was feeling guilty. I was like, God, I got to get Mike paid back. And in the exact minutes, he sends me a picture of his new beachside condo with a pool being installed. And I'm like, this motherfucker. I'm
in no rush to get that money back from you.
Buddy. I'm just
friends are if your name wasn't Owen, I wouldn't even have brought it up today. But
well, speaking of Owen money, Mike, the gentleman behind you, I think this is maybe quite a good time to plug that.
He doesn't owe anybody anything. We owe him a debt of gratitude, and let's talk about that because
who's the guy behind you?
Are you serious?
Some people might not know who he is, and there are people who listen to this on iTunes, so fucking say who it is.
Okay, the second thing is okay. I actually thought you were asking me who it was, like for your own benefit.
No, I have also shared an Airbnb with Ola, but I have not given him the pleasure of breaking any chairs in front of him.
No, Ola was the voice on the famous voice by now of "You broke the chair, man," and Ola is just an amazing person. We met Ola, and I'm trying to think. Did we meet Ola through Nunny in the sense?
I feel like yes.
The chat group, and then you met him when you came over before I did.
Yeah, I feel like I met him through Nun in the chat group because I remember going to Andrew texted me early that day and said, "Hey, why don't you come to the pub?" And I think him, Ola, and Canton were there having drinks, and I feel like that's the first time I met him, and Kenny.
Yeah, and I was so jealous of that, and I've since made up for it. But yeah, he's a guy who's been on ABW. He's been on, and Danny can tell you, he's in the chat. He's been on Tom's show on the Gooner Talk TV. He's been on a lot of different shows. He does his own MMA show, but the guy in person, I mean, you meet a lot of people when you come over and you have, social media and you do podcasts and stuff. You just meet people, connect with people. And he is honestly one of the biggest sweethearts, one of the nicest people I have ever met, like virtually or in real life. The guy is, sometimes you can't get to see him at games because he's busy, he's working, he's got family events, takes care of his family, which I think everyone should. I mean, just because Andy does it doesn't mean that it's not expected of people, but takes care of his family, takes care of other people. His work is delivering and supporting, delivering things and supporting families with disabilities, just basically helping out others who can't help himself. And right now he's in a situation where he needs help. If you've been following the Twitter feed, if you've been watching TGT or what other show did we do on? Well, Danny and I talked about it on our Sunday roast show. We had a show on Lee Judge's TV. He is in a situation where his papers are expiring soon, and he needs to renew his papers, so he's not considered an overstayer. And it's a lot of money. And I can tell you, as a father of someone who's going to be spending 2 months, 3 months in Europe, in England over the summer for a temporary work thing, there's fees and paperwork that I just helped her with today, and that's just for a 2-month work visa. What he's got to fill out and the health charges and the legal charges is costing thousands of pounds. And because he stretches himself so far with his work, with his family, with the number of things that he's doing, and he's not, paid a ton of money for it, he's really had no choice but to kind of ask for some crowdfunding. And I'm so glad that he did, because I said yesterday on TGT, I believe in paying it forward. I think it's important to do that, to do nice things for people, to do generous acts for people, even when you're not going to get anything back in return, because ultimately the world has a way of evening that out. And Ola spent the last 5 years that I've known him doing nice things for everybody, including sleeping on my couch, letting me take a picture of him doing that, including all that different stuff. And he bought, tons of beers the night at the, but I'm not talking about even those things. He's just a good person, a good friend. And finally some good karma's coming around for him, because he has a GoFundMe, which you can easily get to at keepolahere.com, and it goes straight to the GoFundMe. I'll put that on a scroll at the bottom in a second. But if you go to that, it'll take you to the GoFundMe. It'll describe his situation. I believe it's at just about $2,600 or 2,600 pounds out of the 3,500 that are needed. So we're like 3/4 of the way there, but we're running out of time. There's just about a week left before he has to devote that money towards the cause. And so any help that you can provide, again, whether you know him or not, whether you know me and trust me that he's a good person and that he's not just getting money for something he could have paid for himself, please, please, please do that. And we'd love to see the number increase actually while we're podcasting. Not that we usually get that many anyway, but please don't super chat us. We'll read your comments if you put super chat in the comment and don't actually super chat us. Take that money instead of having half of it go to YouTube and put it to the GoFundMe. So, and thank you to everybody that's already, we already deposited money in there and already sent money. We see so many people that we know from all of these different podcasts. So, Owen, you want to say anything about Ola while I check to see the?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, obviously, look, I've known Ola for probably about 2 years, just from WhatsApp groups and stuff. But I had the pleasure of meeting him whilst it was over for the Villa game before Christmas. I think it was with yourself, Mike, and just one of the most genuinely nice men that you'll ever meet. He's just exactly everything you expect him to be and more. And one of the things that stuck out to me was, after a night of heavy drinking and chanting, and not even just a night, a full day of heavy drinking, as soon as I woke up, he was on the phone to his missus, talking to his kids on the phone. And
we all just slept together that night.
Yeah. But no, not only was he straight on the phone to them, the journey that man had to undertake, not only to see us in the first place, but to get back to his family. And that was immediately what he was trying to do. And to think that the disappointing thing for me is that the system's that flawed, that a man who works as hard as he does to provide for his family and sacrifices things for the betterment of others, throughout the pandemic, while a lot of people were at home working from home, he was still out at it all the time, and I've never seen him complain once. So for a guy in his circumstances to be under the pressure that he's under, I think just says everything that's wrong with the system. But as you said, I think if I was in this situation, or you were in this situation, Mike, and the roles were reversed, Ola would be one of the first people to turn around, put his hand in his pocket and try and get us out of it. And trust me, if I was in the situation where I could try to help him more, I would. But that's the beautiful thing about being part of the Arsenal family. We've seen the generosity through Gooners v Cancer, and we're a generous fan base, and it's good to see that that's coming out once more. But as you said, it's about that time limit. Don't be thinking, I'll donate tomorrow, or I'll donate next week, whenever. If you're going to donate now. That doesn't matter the size of the donation, whether it's £1 or £1,000 or whatever you think you can afford.
I think GoFundMe forces it to be no less than 5, which we regret, because I mean, it's a limitation of the website. But
as my missus told me, mate, look, size doesn't matter, and that's a thing that I'm still pretty sure she's lying about. But
that's the podcast motto.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, and when you mention Gooners versus Cancer, I mean, so many people I recognize from the donor list to Ola that are also donating to Gooners versus Cancer. Dublin Gooner, you're in the chat right now, donated to both of those today, and I appreciate it so much. Edward Sager is someone that I actually met while we were over in London the last time. He's an American from New York, but I mean, we've got bunch of people that I recognize from both Neil Gargis, Desmond Edwards, Scott Gleason, Daniel Sweetman, of course. Thank you so much. Philip Howell, who's Gary, don't waste the tweet. There's been over 120. There's been 125 donors to this cause, and it just shows you how you can get to a goal, even if you really only have about £5 or so to spare. So there is a special promotion though. If you donate 50 quid or more, you gain ownership of 2% of Ola. Kind of like, how footballers, like the Brazilian footballers, they're owned by like 5 different companies. And I'm probably going down a dangerous path to talk about ownership of a person, especially Ola. But you get part of the sell-on fee. You get to share in his extraordinary penis.
Wait a second. I have a question, because now I'm just my brain's going. It's Nigerian, right? Are we sure this isn't some sort of a Prince scheme?
No. I don't know why I think what you just said is worse than what I just said, because I'm really people in glass houses, but
no, the dude's unbelievable, and we're acting like he's dead. He's a good
I know. I have a bunch of like pictures and videos of him, and then I'm like, wait, if I show like a montage, it's like
this is a great guy with a kind heart, and like Owen said, he would be the first one to step up when anyone else is in need, and I think he legitimately loves giving back to the community as much as he does his family. And so if you can spare anything, just Mike, post the GoFundMe page. Let's try and get him to his goal, because he's got a kind heart. He's got a kind heart. Does he make you stay up 45 minutes late to let you into the Airbnb so he can grab a kebab? Yeah. Does he offer to buy you one? No. But there he is. So,
all right, hold on. I'm going to try to get that to scroll. Oh, Jesus. All right, but speaking of which, one last thing on Ola. I'm going to play one video, and it is, and Owen, you're in it. And this just shows how nice he is, because Owen and I were being complete jerks to your lawyer, husband, and best friend, Andy. Who is it? Your lawyer, Joey?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at Ola's thing. Dude, Joey Murphy, oh man.
Yeah. And this is how it went, and you can just see how sweet Ola is here.
I want to see Joey. Hey, Joey. Fuck you, Joey. Fuck you. I love you, Joey, man. Come on. Everybody fuck Joey. What do you mean fuck Joey? Where's Joey? That's my... I love Joey. He loves Joey. I fucking love Joey. That's the crypto guy. Man. Where's Joey? Come on, Joey. Joey, where are you? Joey. Reports. Joey. Joey! We need you!
I like how Joey's known as the crypto guy. Oh, and have you heard of Joey's crypto story?
Oh, no. I'm just disgraced that I fucked up.
I'm not going to do it justice, but he did something like
beers.
Like years and years and years ago, before like everyone started investing in crypto. Like Joey wanted to put some money into Bitcoin, but accidentally added like 2 zeros or something, and it like blew up, and Joey made a shit ton of money, which was great for him. But at the time, he was a little panicked. And
he didn't like add 2 zeros, and it was too much, and it bounced, and so he didn't get in. He
like he got in, but was like, "Fuck!" Like I've just invested this money. Now he could have probably sold it and got it back, but he sat on it.
Shit.
And then the thing like skyrocketed, and so now that's why.
Why isn't he taking us over?
Joey's fucking balling.
I swear, I forget I overheard him talking to my wife, and she was laughing, and then he's like, "Yeah, I threw it all into my 401k." So I think he did something smart with it, which over here is your investment retirement. But anyway, aren't we? So rest in peace, Ola. Aren't we? Aren't we supposed to be talking about Arsenal or something?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So
I see that David Ziegler has done a complete itinerary for us this evening.
Yeah, I mean we're just gonna move on to user questions. I haven't actually looked at them yet, but I saved them for later. So if you have any other, I think he's talking about you and Ola.
I do like Owen just staring at the camera like he's like shell shocked, and then just yells, "Fuck you, Joey!"
So fucked up.
He was politely waiting for Ola to finish, and then Ola just kind of hung there for a second, and so he jumps in with his normal.
I'm pretty sure that if you go through every single one of them videos, that I was consistently thinking you were taking pictures the entire evening, and then taking about 5 seconds to realize.
Oh, fuck you! And they all start with "fuck yous." Mm-hmm. All right. So Arsenal, we got another win. We're still in 4th place. I mean, things couldn't really be better right now, within reason. As far as I'm concerned, and that's why we're back podcasting again. But 1-0 against Aston Villa came with plenty of talking points, and I'd like to formally thank our missing co-host Michael Hernandez Jr. on some of these talking points, which we're stealing from his outstanding podcast, Not Another Arsenal Podcast. But so let's kind of go from back to front. The celebration police, they're out. I gotta give some credit to Gabby Agbonlahor at least, because he got owned. He knew he got owned. He admitted defeat about getting owned, and said that it was really jealousy talking. And that's the way to, I've said a lot of stupid stuff in my life, and when I get called on it, I usually don't try to get out of it by claiming that's not what I said. I think he took the right route. So Andy, first explain what you're laughing about.
Just you saying I try to get out of it. I can just see you just, well, you're gay.
No, well, that wouldn't be stupid. The celebration police, as far as you're concerned, I mean, do you have anybody that's questioning your reaction to these games, or are you really just going by what people are talking about in the media?
I think is Laura Woods, right?
Yeah.
I think her summation of the whole thing was just like spot on and perfect. I know that she's an Arsenal supporter, but ultimately, like if we rewind the clock back to May, June, July, there was a lot of Aston Villa fans giving it to Arsenal fans on Twitter that they were buying our players, and that they were trying to buy Emil Smith Rowe, and that they were beating us to transfers, and they were talking mad shit. So, ultimately at the end of the day, there was a little bit of rivalry there, but then also like these supporters have spent a lot of money and time to travel away. Like, how are you not going to, as she put it, do we wait until game 38? Like, no, you celebrate. And the players coming over and having that relationship with the fans is what Arteta has been crying for the last 2 years that he's been our manager. He's told the players there needs to be more connection with the supporters, whether that is them in the stands or them online or just whatever it is. So I'm all for it. And I've said it the last couple of months, like the only team that beats Arsenal Champions League is Arsenal. Like when you look at that schedule and the run of matches, we are by far, aside from Liverpool, aside from Chelsea, we are the best team, and we should maximize those points, right? So I would be celebrating as much as we can. Like, we're not promised tomorrow. There's a fucking crazy Russian guy who might just nuke us all. So we got to celebrate while we're here, baby.
Who, Usmanov? I mean, I just don't get it. The thought. Let me try to get it. No, and you can tell me whether you agree or not. The whole concept behind, because it's Arsenal fans talking about celebration too and policing celebration, and that is all about standards. I mean, the Villas of the world and the Neves of the world are basically bitching that they or basically claiming their own importance because of how much we're celebrating. they're not saying it's unsportsmanlike. They're basically just saying, we must be really scary to them if we're celebrating. But the people within the Arsenal fan base talk about that all the time. I remember, the Palace game, which was the first one I went to on my last trip, Lacazette scores in injury time to salvage a 2-2 draw. We celebrated the shit out of that thing, me and Tom, because I would have lost my undefeated streak at the Emirates, which still goes on today. But second, it was a massive point at a time where we needed it. We needed 10 points out of 12 in that run. And while that was the first game of 4, we did end up getting 10 out of 12 because of that draw. And we are now where we are in large part because of it. So, is it what do you think, Owen, about the people inside? Because the point is, our standard should be higher than to be that happy about that particular result. But in the moment, you can't get better without getting results that are better than they otherwise would have been. So I don't get it. Please explain it to me.
Well, I just find it funny that Arsenal and the Emirates have been sort of criticised over the years of being, the library, not Highbury, and the Emirates atmosphere being sort of lackluster at times. And I think that for people now to be turning around and saying, oh, they're too boisterous and the players are too boisterous is a little funny. But I think what you have to do is you have to put it into context. Okay, so the 2 games are Wolves and Aston Villa. Okay, so you have to put those games into context. Why were the players celebrating? Well, one of them is because we scored quite late against Wolves to win that game. So the emotion of that was still quite raw at full time. And then in the Aston Villa game, that was a game that we sort of held out. And then a player who just came back into the fold, Leno, saved the last minute shot to keep the game 1-0. So I think you have to put that into context. I think that if we had been 2 or 3 goals up and cruising it out from the 75th minute, maybe the reaction just wouldn't have been as passionate. But also I think that one of the things that we have with this team that has been absolutely massive this season is there's a connection with the fans. This is the most united I've seen the club hierarchy, the manager, the players, and the fan base in a long, long, long time. And I think in a way the players feed off the fans. And one thing I have to say is not only the home fans, but the away fans this season have been absolutely phenomenal. The noise coming out of there. I think even at Anfield against Liverpool, you couldn't even hear the home support over the away fans, and it was the same at Villa. Our away fans have dominated, and I think our players are, in a way, and this can be used in a negative manner as well, but passion merchants. These types of players, Ben White, Gabriel, Kieran Tierney, Ramsdale, whoever you want to name, a lot of them feed off the passion that is coming from the stands. And I think that that's a really, really good thing because it is building that connection. So look, one thing I've noticed over the past few weeks as well is that we all know the sayings that have been associated to Arsenal, banter FC, we're a laughing stock of the Premier League. When people stop making jokes about you and people start complaining about you, it means you're getting serious. People are getting worried. And I knew that when my brother, who's I've mentioned before, is a diehard Liverpool fan, was extremely panicked at the prospect of playing Arsenal. He wasn't laughing, he wasn't joking, he wasn't saying that it was going to be an easy game whatsoever. And the relief from the Liverpool fan base, I think, after they picked up that result, just shows exactly how far we have come. There's obviously still a bit of a deficit between Liverpool and Man City, which you can completely expect because the majority of these players are under the age of 25 and they've all been playing together for the total of a year maybe, up against the team who have won the Champions League and the league within the last few seasons. So I would say that the fact that the neutrals are now voicing criticism against Arsenal, it just stands us in good stead for the progress that we're making, and the fact that we're now no longer a laughing stock and we're serious contenders when it comes to those top 4 places, and they're maybe worried about that even going further in the future.
Yeah, after years of comments like, Arsenal don't have the cojones and all of that stuff, it's just I will all day long take people bitching about games we've rescheduled, bitching about, asking for protection, which is one of our next talking points. I'll take that all day long because it means that people are now trying to get an advantage over us because they need it, rather than sitting back and saying, oh, well, we know Arsene Wenger is just going to keep playing the same exact tactics and we've got a way to solve that and we're not worried about them. So I agree with you 100%. Let the haters hate. The one thing I don't really love is, it's not let the refs keep blowing stupid shit against us and not calling, fouls that need to be called unless they're on us. I mean, that needs to stop. But as far as other teams complaining about us, it's a sign of success. So, Gerrard mentioned, we've put it up a couple times, but last year against Leicester, Wolves, and Villa, we took 3 points out of 18. That is insane. This year, it's 18 out of 18. We should be celebrating top 4 type shit, that is. And yeah, it is. And soon, I have no doubt, we'll be celebrating the occasional and hopefully frequent wins against Liverpool, against Chelsea, against United again, and Spurs, and even City. So, look, we're on the way up as far as I'm concerned. So, speaking of protection and Saka, A, how good is that guy? B, when is his career going to end up like Diaby's if this thing keeps going? And C, what should he be paid right now? Because everyone's talking about a contract renewal for him. The number that's been mooted is £125,000, a week. And I'm just hoping we get it done before the season. So, Andy, we'll swing around to you again.
Yeah, I think that
Saka gate.
I think that number is probably fair and reasonable considering how good he is and how good he's going to be. And, you want to keep him happy. And in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of money for a player of his caliber at a club our size, right? I mean, it's a lot of money to anyone, but for someone like him, the world's at his feet, and barring injury, he's just going to continue to go up and up. So I think that's a decent amount of money. Protection's a weird thing, Mike, because I think if we were not Arsenal supporters, we probably would look at it a little differently with the calls that he is not getting and he is getting. And it's, I think if you're like, like let's say you're an Everton supporter and you watch an Arsenal match, you're probably saying, well, he isn't picked on, or he shouldn't, players shouldn't be protected more than anyone else. But I almost feel like maybe his game needs to be changed a little bit. He is a tracking left or right winger, right? So he does have that defensive mode. So we do see him go down more often than not because he is fighting and scrapping for the ball. And maybe that's just where Arteta and the coaches need to say to him, like, yo, relax. Because you don't want him to fall into a Wilshere situation where he gets hurt because he's going into challenges he doesn't have to.
Is that how you see it, though? Because, I mean,
no. I'm just saying
Wilshere was reckless. Saka's getting targeted.
No. I'm just saying that for him to minimize his contact with other players. Now, he's getting contacted because players worry when he gets the ball that he's going to leave him for dead, which he does a lot. That's just something we've seen it like, and I'm not comparing the two, but you see Messi get fouled that way. Ronaldo got fouled that way when they were younger, just because you're going to foul the player rather than let them beat you. And eventually, early in matches, players will get yellows and that'll stop. But I fear for him and Martinelli because he's the other one, right? I mean, he makes players look ridiculous, like even more than Saka. Like the way he treated Trent Alexander-Arnold in that Liverpool match. And like Arnold if he was any other player, would have fouled him. But Arnold knows like that's not how he plays. So
Arnold, make him sound like a 90-year-old Jew. This guy is killing me.
And that is my hot take. Please.
I put down the wrong. Hold on. This was supposed to come. Yes. So you're based. I mean, at some point though, if you get yellows in the 12th minute, you don't keep kicking him for the rest of the game. And it's just I can't think of. And again, I recognize there may be bias, but I mean, Owen, have you ever seen a?
Can I say one thing quick?
Yeah.
So did you guys listen to the Ramsdale podcast when he was interviewed by Ben Foster?
I didn't.
He said something along the lines with like, Saka is the type of player that does not care who stands in front of him. He's going to take them on. And that's like one attribute that they love about him being so young. So he is going to get booted around. And while that's not right, like he created a stardom for himself in England this past summer with the penalty kick. Come Christmas, his stardom is going to go 5 times for what he's about to do at the World Cup. Because we all know Southgate's going to use him. And again, he doesn't care. So I do think protection will come. But I'm not asking for protection because he's an Arsenal player, right? I'm asking for protection because he's a young player we don't want to see get injured because he has the world at his feet. So I do think it's going to come, but players don't – he's young. They're reacting to him being beat off the ball, so they're going in. That foul for me in the Aston Villa match wasn't a foul. Like that wasn't a yellow card. That was, for me, if anything, the ref comes over and just says to was it Mings? Like,
really?
Hey, yeah, I didn't see it as a foul. 100%. I thought it was a good play. He got ball.
Yeah, but Vinnie Jones is your favorite footballer of all time. So
if I was the ref, I would have said to Mings, like, hey, a little easier, right? But I didn't see that as a foul, personally.
Yeah, it's
And what I would ask you to add to your response is, can you think of a player, like objectively speaking, a player on another team in the Premier League that gets targeted and like consistently just kicked around like Bukayo Saka does?
Yeah, but it isn't an unfrequent thing that we see. You know, Eden Hazard was the type of player that got rotational fouls done. Jack Grealish gets done. Wilfred Zaha, I think, is the most
Son
fouled
from
player.
Tottenham gets done quite often.
It's a tactic, and look, this is where, whilst they have no loyalties or love for the officials in English football, it's a very difficult thing to stop because you can only punish the offence at hand, which is you can only treat each individual player that is making that foul at the time. You know, you can only punish him for the circumstances of which he presents you at that time. You can't turn around and say, because player A did this and player B did this, and now you, player C, are doing this, I'm going to punish you for all 3 of those. It's a really difficult thing to try and do. You have to judge each action on its own merit, essentially. But it's true that he does need some protection. I think that Bukayo Saka, the type of player that he is, he's the type of player that tries to draw people in so that he can open up space behind them and move into it, which is really, really good for us. But in terms of him as a player and the injuries he's going to sustain during his career, it's probably likely that he will pick up quite a few bumps and bruises. Now, the thing is that we have on our side at this minute is father time, essentially. He's still a young kid. He's made of rubber. These things will only really start getting worse and worse when he gets up over that 25 mark, 27, 28, when he starts progressing and he's not as resilient as he once was, maybe.
He'll be City's problem by then.
Yeah, but look, in terms of rotational fouls, there's a thing that we should maybe look to implement. We see Man City do it as well. At times, they're very, very good at doing it. Everybody does it, so you can't criticize it. What I will say is that, and this might sound a little old school, and I'm pretty sure we're going to move on to a manager that come out with some comments, and we can criticize old school thinking there. But the way I look at it is, it's down to the players of our own team to self-police it. Okay, if I was a central midfielder, if I was a wing back, if I was whoever it is in Arsenal's team, if Tyrone Mings wants to fly in at a dirty challenge on Bukayo Saka, if Ashley Young wants to fly in and put in a dirty challenge on Bukayo Saka, you're going to get one twice as hard back. The next time that ball comes to your feet, you go and you absolutely lather them.
Yeah, but theirs is a warning and ours is a red.
That's the problem, because the one player on our team that will do it will get red carded immediately, and
I'm not sure that that's the case anymore. I'm not sure that Cedric is in any way soft. I'm not sure Tierney's in any way soft. Ben White, Gabriel, Thomas Partey, these aren't soft players like we were used to having at Arsenal. And if they want to do rotational fouling, the other team's doing it as well, within our right to do it too. But it's just it sets the precedent that we're not pushovers, we aren't going to be rolled over, and we're not going to let our players be targeted. And one thing I was actually really happy with was the fact that we were in the referee's face. We were up in Aston Villa players' faces, and I was actually quite disappointed at the commentators for the UK coverage were actually criticising Arsenal for doing it, when that's something that we haven't seen being done by Arsenal in a long time. So it just once again sort of shows the togetherness within this group, and that's something that I really like seeing at the minute.
And the other thing I would do if I was Arteta, and I see this happen frequently, is we know Saka can play over on the left. I'd almost switch him up every once in a while and make him and Martinelli kind of switch sides, right? So you're just causing all sorts of like issues for other players. And not saying he's not going to get fouled on the other side, but ultimately, Mike, to your point, like if one player is constantly going in and making it hard for him, switch him over and just kind of give him some freedom. But he will get protection, but we can't, like Owen said, you can't ask for it because two players do it and the third one comes in, right? It's got to be the situational. But for me, that wasn't a foul on Mings. I thought it was a good tackle.
All right. Well, that's an interesting take. I haven't heard that one yet. So, Owen, do you want to talk about Gerrard then? Because I mean, I just think his comments are just.
But I do agree with Mark right here. If Xhaka makes that tackle, it's a red card.
Yeah, it was a yellow. I disagree with Andy there, and it's just in the modern game the lack of control in the tackle and the danger that it could have caused. But you can't red card somebody for danger that it could have caused. It was within the control limits of making it just a yellow card, but it was definitely excessive. But going on the Gerrard quotes, I think Bukayo Saka actually handled himself and presented himself fairly well in the post-match interview when making the comments. He didn't really overdo it. He didn't really, he's a well-mannered young lad, and that's what he came across as. But for somebody like Gerrard, and this is what I don't get, for someone to actively sit there and said, I've had 16 surgeries, I'm sitting here with screws in my hip, as some sort of gatekeeper for old school football, it's like you as a person should be one of the people standing by and turn around and say, yes, I want players of today to prevent having these kind of issues when they reach my age. The modern game is completely different to the type of game that I played back then. If everybody turned around and says that because they went through a terrible experience that everybody else has to go through that terrible experience to be deemed equal to them, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And for the fact that you can actively go look up press conferences from Rangers and look at Gerrard criticising the officiating for not protecting his players at Rangers for the exact same type of thing, it's just hypocritical. And again, I think Gerrard has maybe he's just been caught in a place where he tried to radiate himself as an old school football hard man and just made himself out to be an ignorant fool.
Yeah, there is nothing more frustrating and annoying than hypocrisy, and I mean the hypocrisy level just in the world, just beyond football, but there's tons of it in football. It's the one thing that has just doubled every single year in the last 10 years. Like
the funniest thing I seen was Jamie O'Hara on TalkSport agreeing with Gerrard, and I think he said that he had similar number of surgeries and stuff, and I actually was blown away because I looked and he's only made about 3 appearances every year for his entire career. So he must have been in like a horrific car crash or a bungee jumping accident or something because he didn't sustain fuck all playing football, the absolute waster.
Yeah,
I think for Gerrard too, like if his tactics are going to be to just batter the big teams off the field with aggression, like Villa are going to lose because they have and I say this respectfully, they have too many South Americans in their team to do that.
How do you say that? You can say that inoffensively, but how do you say it respectfully?
Because that's not how they are raised to play football. That's not the tactics that they go into football matches. Like when have you ever seen, like an Argentina or Brazil that was made up of 10 hard men? Like that.
Have you ever watched the Copa America?
No. I understand
those games are closer to rugby than they are football.
Well, yeah, but you also have to take the fact out that like half of them fucking roll 35 times when they're touched, So it's like what's actually in foul and what's not. But in today's modern football, the way Gerrard has set up Villa to play is ultimately going to lead to his death. So fuck him.
But do you think that that's maybe something that played into that maybe played into Gerrard's comments is the fact that surely if his team are doing rotational tactical fouling, that's implemented by the manager. Surely the manager can come out.
He brought that in 100%. And that's why I'm saying, like, if he continues that way, they're going to get relegated because you can't win football matches that way. Because the mindset of the players is going to be, well, I got to go foul Saka, so I'm out of position now. I'm not thinking about
the offensive threat disappears because they're so
right. Like if we go back to that Liverpool game, and Gerrard and I were having the conversation in our WhatsApp group where I blame Saka for the goal because he was trying to move the ball forward and Liverpool were already in the pressing. So when the ball unluckily bounced in the other direction, they were there. If you were to put Villa in that scenario, the players wouldn't be there because they're all trying to foul and they're trying to do something else, right? And it's like, you know, in a league like the Premier League, if you want to stay up, you have to be attacking minded. You have to have a better tactical nous. And again, you know, Gerrard's a fucking moron.
Andy, Moss thinks you're a fucking moron, by the way. And Moss is he's been a great interactor and contributor. So don't come back with profanities and cut our listener base in half again like you always did.
Maradona is the most overrated footballer of all time. There, I said it. Move on.
Just one more thing on Saka, the rotational foul. I suppose the one thing that you can take away from it, though, is that even with these last-ditch attempts of tactical rotation or tactical fouls on Saka consistently, he still fucking teams up. You know, that's the last-ditch effort to try and stop people, and he's still running past them. He's still putting the ball in the net.
And every time you think he's knackered and he's, you know, he's played too much. He's starting to show signs of fatigue. The very next game, he's 9 out of 10.
Well, and I think Ian Wright said it a long time ago. Like he was being interviewed, and he said, like, old defenders back in the day, the 80s and 90s, which Moss was referring to, they used to put a boot in the back of your calf. They used to put a knee in your lower back, in your butt, because they wanted you to know, like, hey, I'm here, and I don't want you coming here. So that's where Gerrard is going, like, hey, take out Saka, take out the young boys, because then they're not going to run at you again. The problem with Saka is that he will run at you again, right? So that's where the fouls start adding up because he doesn't care. He's not going to shy away from it. And that might be where Arteta needs to sit down with him and say, hey, if you're feeling an injury or you're feeling a dead leg, just relax for 5. Let that feeling go, and then you can do it again, right? That's what I was trying to say before. Like, you'll just
see Saka like lying down on the field, like
yeah. Now, Mike, I will say, and I'm sure you have
chair
talk it, but the moment he scored that goal and his celebration, I thought of you immediately.
We have to talk about that.
And then I want to say this real quick. Last night, my son scored in his practice, and he tried to do the knee slide and totally Saka hit the ground.
Did he pull it off as well as Saka?
He did the cartwheel, but he didn't know what to do after that. It was more of like a 4.5-year-old just fumbling forward. But I was like, if I could have had this on video for Uncle Mike, he would.
Oh my God. Uncle Mike, aka my father. That is, I mean, I love myself a knee slide. We've talked about it a million times. That's why Andy thought of me right away. And that knee slide went so wrong so quickly, and yet he pulled it out and made it an 11 out of 10 because it was like the perfect kind. It looked like, I hate to say this, but you remember Robbie Keane's goal celebration? Was it Robbie Keane? Where he did like
the
played for Spurs, then he played in LA and he was scoring a lot of goals in MLS, and he would do this like somersault followed by like some sort of gun
bow and arrow,
something like that. It was almost like that, except he didn't even mean to do it. It just some people can make even the biggest fuck ups look cool, and that's what Bukayo Saka did. Because I want him to do that every time intentionally now, and I bet you he won't be able to do it.
I'm just waiting for the day that someone tries to do that slide and it's an ACL pop.
Well, that's my concern. I mean, I thought that was going to.
Manager or a trader, I'd be like, do not do that.
I thought that was going to be Aubameyang's fate for 3 years after.
Yeah, that was like my first thought was like, oh God, that looked painful.
Did Aubameyang, when he did score for us the last year and a half, aka under Arteta, did he stop doing the flip, or was he still doing the flip?
He did
Yeah.
So he did the flip.
No, he just wasn't scoring.
Well, I know that. That's why I said the few times. But like,
and when he did, it was against Nottingham Forest, where you don't do that.
Maybe he scored a hat trick against West Brom's B team, and did a triple axel Lutz. No, I just was wondering because I couldn't really remember him doing it, and it's probably because he didn't score. But I think that I thought maybe that was one of like the non-negotiables is that you can't do a flip anymore. Do you remember? Speaking of celebration injuries, do you remember?
Wait. Wow. So that was the one rule that Aubameyang followed.
It was. Do you remember Martin Gramatica? Andy?
The field goal kicker, yeah.
Yeah, well, he had a brother, Bill Gramatica, who I believe it was Bill that got a field goal that won a game, jumped up to celebrate, and pulled his hammy and was out for the rest of the season, which is the greatest thing ever.
Wasn't there a Premier League footballer who like dropped something on their toe, like an Xbox or PS4 controller, and they had to have surgery or something, or a bottle?
Sounds like Ozil.
Balotelli, maybe.
Yeah, it could have been.
Didn't Ozil hurt his wrist playing Fortnite or some shit like that?
That's what he says.
All right, so Abba only flips on his first goal, Mark says. So maybe that was it. Maybe I'm just thinking of all of his second and third goals that he scored in games. So yeah. Let's see. We got. I was going to mention the knee slide. So Xhaka gate. Can the guy get a break?
What happened?
Let's not talk that much. He got a yellow card for persistent fouling when he had only had one foul, and it was the one that he got the yellow card on. Like the ref made it absolutely clear that this was an accumulation of fouls because he was like pointing to the spots on the pitch where he committed these phantom fouls, but he literally got one foul. And apparently his number of fouls that he's received is among the lowest in his position. I mean, but yet like
his red cards are the highest.
80% of them have been cards.
Well, if that statistic is true, then that's something that Arsenal need to take back to the FA and the officials and just say, hey, and I know where that stat came from, and we all know he's the biggest twat on Twitter. So ultimately, if it is true, then
he's the biggest twat still on Twitter.
Yeah. I would say, like, if it was true, that's where Arsenal need to go back and say, like, how can this be fair, right? Ultimately, there are, like we were mentioning, like if Mings made that, or if Xhaka made that Mings tackle, it's not even a question. It's a red card. But you got to feel bad for the guy because he has been incredible the last 3, 4, 5 matches. Like he has been absolutely the player we wanted 5 years ago when he signed. He's just been incredible.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous when you think of the lack of consistency. I think there was the situation after the Saka tackle where John McGinn come over and sent Lacazette into another dimension with a push, and the fact that there was no repercussion for that really, or equal put it like this is my problem with modern football, is the fact that Xhaka's punishment for that little nudge on Emi Martinez was the exact same as Tyrone Mings' challenge on Bukayo Saka. One was a potentially massive, could have inflicted a massive injury that ruled Bukayo Saka out for the entirety of the season or longer, even maybe if that was a couple of inches higher. And the other was literally a touch on the chest. But look, the one thing I will say before I go on to give Xhaka some praise is there's the old school saying of don't give them a decision to make. And it was unnecessary, whilst I didn't think there was anything really wrong with what Xhaka did. He shouldn't have got booked for it, but he could have turned around and walked away. He knows the sort of reputation that precedes him, and he knows that the officials are quick to.
Well, there's one situation where he walked away, and I think the referee was trying to call him over to give him a card, and he kept walking away.
Yeah,
come over, and I was.
These are silly decisions.
Was that in this game, or was that?
It was the same. That was the same incident.
And the announcer here was literally saying he could be getting, he could be getting in trouble with a second yellow card simply for not coming over. And that would have been like the second time 2 yellows on one situation, second time with Arsenal, that would have been just an absolute blow up situation.
But to go on to give Granit Xhaka a bit of praise, and I think that this is the most praise that you could give him, is that we're all talking about upgrades, come the summer, the rebuild continues, and I think, of course, we'll maybe talk about it later, but the striker position is obviously one position that we want. The backup right back position is still something that I think needs addressing, even though Cedric has stepped in nicely. But one thing I will say is that we were talking about suitors like Ruben Neves, like Tielemans, players like this to come in and be the upgrade on Granit Xhaka, and I'm not sure that either of those players are going to fill the boots of the performances that Granit Xhaka is putting in now at the minute. And I think that Mikel Arteta is owed a bit of credit for that too, because the tactical tweak in that position and what the demands are in that position have just completely unleashed Granit Xhaka, and he's a completely different player, much like the one we've seen for his national side. But when you start looking around about what are realistic options, who's going to be available, the price tags on players, the age bracket of the types of players that we're going to be looking for, the influence that they will have around the dressing room, it's going to be much tougher to replace, I think, than people realize. Much tougher.
I agree, and that's me saying that.
Why would you want to replace him though, based off of the last 5 weeks? Like I'm
not sure I would, Andy, but I suppose just to play devil's advocate, people would say that based off the last 5 weeks, over maybe the last 4 years, that's the counter argument, is that we've got 4 years or 5 years of Granit Xhaka as a sample size, and we're using a small margin of that.
Well, yeah, and I believe that we need to upgrade in that position. But I am willing to say that it's got to be very, very carefully done, because there is chemistry between those two. It's undeniable.
Let me ask you this, though, right? So Mike just brought up the point that Xhaka obviously has a target on his back by the Premier League refs. So let's take that into consideration, right? So if we look at the 4 years, just playing devil's advocate, aside from the whole bullshit thing with the armband, but if he doesn't have the target on his back and he isn't getting the red cards and he's picking up those yellows, he's kind of like in a Patrick Vieira scenario where Patrick picked up a lot of stupid yellow card fouls, right? But like you just said,
how many reds did he have?
Well, but that's what I'm saying. But like with Xhaka, he's got that kind of target on his back. So, and Vieira didn't really have that. I mean, Vieira got a fair few reds, but those were more like vicious tackles where you're like, okay, you can see by that, right? Whereas Xhaka, when you look back at it now, you're like, some of these are really fucking ridiculous. Like maybe the first yellow was ridiculous, but the second yellow wasn't, where you're like, okay.
I'm not sure he's ever gotten a second yellow, though. I read that somewhere as well.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that, like, the sample size is large, but if you take out the equation of bad officiating, and there have been moments where you're like, Jacques has lost his head, where you see him go down in the penalty box. But if that was only your sample size, Owen, you'd be like, man, this is a different player. I agree with you, though. We need to strengthen that position. We need to push Xhaka to be a better player. If he goes out, we've got Sambi who can come in. He's clearly going to be a great central midfielder. He's just not ready today, right? And I do think we should strengthen. But I don't think that a player coming into the team, unless they're a world-class center mid, are going to uproot him from the starting 11 right now. And that's all due respect to Xhaka being just absolutely phenomenal.
I'll be honest, I know I played devil's advocate there, but at this point, I'm not sure that that's the priority, that we do need to upgrade on Granit Xhaka. I'm not sure that's feasible at this time. And I think
it's
we need to get Emi Martinez back.
But I think that the main issue everybody has is discipline with Granit Xhaka, and I think that that's the problem with the historical issues with Granit Xhaka and his discipline, is the fact that he's been a square peg in a round hole for much of his Arsenal career. He was brought in, and everybody thought that he was this masterful central defensive midfielder that could sweep up in front of the back four, and that's just not what he is, and that's not what he has ever been. And I think that part of the problem is, and I think what's being rectified now in this tactical tweak that we're seeing in the upturn of his performances, is the fact that he's much further forward. He's never really the last man back. And I think that what was happening was he was so exposed when he was that last man back, the last man covering the defenders, that he was making rash and stupid decisions. And because of the area of the pitch that it was in and the scenarios that he was making those tackles, it was brandishing the harshest outcomes for those tackles, i.e. red cards. But I think what's happening now is when the ball is turned over, Granit Xhaka is much higher up. He's got Thomas Partey behind him. He's got Gabriel, Ben White there, that are well fit to make up the ground and cover the ground. So therefore, Granit Xhaka is much more.
He doesn't have to pull people from behind as much.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. He's much higher up to win
confidence.
the ball. So therefore, I think the repercussions of those mistakes or those rash tackles are much less harsh than what we've seen in the past. So to be honest with you, I think that whilst they did make the devil's advocate point, and that's all it was, I do agree with you that what we're seeing in the last 5 weeks or so in these performances are probably a sign of what we can expect more of from Granit Xhaka in this system. And also, I think that a big thing is as well is that you made a brilliant point there, which was Thomas Partey. Something that we've seen from Thomas Partey in the absence of Granit Xhaka is the lack of leadership. He's not the type of person, he's not the type of personality to be the general in the middle of a park, in the middle of the park for a team like Arsenal. And I think he needs a leader in there beside him. So I think it's when you start to narrow down the details of the type of player that you need to go in and sit down beside Thomas Partey, it's a very, very niche market that you're going to have to try and tap into. And I'm not sure it's I'm not sure it's very realistic to hinge all our bets on getting an upgrade on Granit Xhaka. I'm not entirely convinced.
I just don't know that the Xhaka Partey is the midfield pivot that can get us top 1 or top 2, as opposed you can definitely get top 3 or top 4 with it, assuming the front and the back are strong as well. But the chemistry part of it, if my issues with Xhaka have never been his skill, his ability, it was his mental state and his personality, and which are both volatile and don't seem to mix well with a large number of Arsenal supporters, including myself, although I've softened on that quite a bit. It's really now mostly about the head's gone thing and the fact that he's got a target on his back, whether that's his fault or not, he does. So he can be a liability in situations. I mean, I think back to the penalty he gave away against, I think it was Brighton or Burnley or somebody like that late in Unai Emery's first season. That was just absolutely nonsensical. It was a penalty, but it was just stupid to give away, and it led to us dropping 2 points that cost us the Premier League, among other drop points that we had around the same time. And it's that kind of thing. If he really can cut that out, if this positional change is making it less likely that he's going to be in those situations, if our tactics protect him from himself and allow him to play freer, then absolutely I think he could be useful. And I'd rather, just like we're going to see in the center backs next season, where I think we're going to have 3 to 4 top center, Premier League center backs fighting for 2 spots every time. And I'm including Holding in that, knowing that he's number 4 out of 4 all the time. It couldn't hurt to have 3 or 4 guys, including Lokonga, do the same thing in the middle, because we are going to have not 38 to 40 games next season. We're going to have 50 to 60 games next season.
But see, 2 things. Number one, first of all, the Gooner, who's an absolute gentleman. We discussed this earlier. I'm not sure that Ruben Neves has outperformed Granit Xhaka this season, nor Tielemans. And what I would say is that, in fact, he and Thomas Partey absolutely dominated midfields that they were parts of this season. I know that Tielemans was out for a last game, but he just hasn't been in great form. Maybe you see an upcycling in form. And the other question I was going to throw back to you, Mike, is that we're saying about the aura that surrounds Granit Xhaka with the officials. We talked earlier about protection for Bukayo Saka. Why is there not the same outcry for protection for a player like Granit Xhaka? Yes, maybe they're not going to be injuries that inflict on him that could rule him out. But when we talk about the fact that Granit Xhaka is being shown yellow cards for completely ridiculous situations, should the Arsenal fan base hop to his defence more often, or do you think he's burned those bridges?
I think he's burned those bridges, but again, we're talking about 2 different types. We're talking about protection for an offender versus protection for a victim. He's getting unfairly carded in many cases for things that he does because of who he is. Whereas Saka is getting kicked around the block, and he's not being protected by having a penalty, a penalty in the form of a card go to the other team. So yeah, it's different, but I understand your concept is about the outcry. And I think that Xhaka, in his account with the supporters, both of Arsenal and other teams and the league, has transgressed enough legitimately that we're not going to mince. We're going to be upset, and we're going to make that stupid joke about, if it was Xhaka, that would have been a red card every time someone, touches another guy. But I don't think he's earned protection. I think he needs to change his style of play to the point where it is so absurdly obvious that there's an agenda against him that the referees can't even continue doing it. So, and again, maybe in the last 5 games we've seen that. The yellow in the last game was ridiculous. That was clearly bias. But I think it's going to take a lot more than 5 or 10 good games of disciplined play, but not backing out of challenges and stuff, as he's actually done and has led to goals when he's already got a yellow on him before. So yeah, I don't think it's the same. You say that Mass Gunner is nice, but there's just no reason for him to call me an idiot. Okay, don't call me an idiot.
He's not lying.
I know, but you could, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
Call Mike an idiot.
If you don't have anything nice to say, call Mike an idiot, even if I'm like 8,000 miles away and not involved. So let's get to user questions now, because we've got a lot of them, and I'm going to start with Mark. Any regret we didn't go for Tammy Abraham to give us a different option for counterattack and someone on the end of crosses? 1,000% regret not going for Tammy Abraham, because I thought he was kind of the perfect solution over the summer, other than a Vlahovic type or a massive guy. He was affordable, reasonable. If Chelsea would have sold to us, I would have taken him in a second, despite the Chelsea reject thing. He was not a Chelsea reject. He was odd man out of a constant reloading of 80 million pound players. So
I bet Chelsea would
look back and see how it's done.
Well, I bet Chelsea would have preferred to keep him, seeing how Lukaku's scored 5 goals for them this season in the league. If we didn't have the Aubameyang, if we had the Aubameyang situation now that we had in the summer, I think we would probably push harder for him. But we didn't have the wages or the ability, and we all thought that Aubameyang was going to come good then. So, I think that's obviously priority number 1 for us, right? And I'll tell you this right now. Edu and Arteta's system for buying players has just been so spot on that whoever they bring in is just going to bang in 100 goals next season. Put that on a goddamn screen thing, Mike.
By the way, I know that you were calling Xhaka an idiot. I am that perspective. So what am I putting on the screen?
Gunner thinks that you're Xhaka?
I know we have a lot in common.
That would explain someone's comment saying that Xhaka was not physically or mentally capable of playing.
All right. User questions. And fair warning, most of these are from David Ziegler. Why don't more people go to the supporters clubhouse before and after matches? I love the place and can't believe it's not even more packed than it usually is. I can give you 2 reasons. But let me ask Andy and Owen first if they have a reason for that. Have you been? You've been to the supporters clubhouse, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's probably better places to go that have more of a fun atmosphere.
Guinness isn't good enough.
I mean, you should go to the supporters clubhouse at least once, if not more, because of just taking a look at the thing. It's amazing. Get there early so it's not packed. But
David probably goes there now because they put pineapple on everything. My wife is starting to get so angry with all the fucking magazines he sent to our house.
Still coming?
Dude, he signed us up for like fucking Waste Management Monthly or some shit, which... When I get it, I think it's funny, and I just throw it in the garbage can next to the mailbox down the street from us. But it really upsets my wife.
Does your postman like ask for a larger tip or a tip because of all the? He's like got back surgery from carrying all the magazines.
I have David's address, and I've had it for a while.
Look how patient he is to plan B.
Very patient. It's a long.
You gonna plan B his ass?
Yeah.
Oh, and have you been to the supporters clubhouse? Did we go?
No, we didn't go. I've been there. The Guinness isn't up to scratch. That's why I don't go. Yeah, basically that's it. I'm an Irish guy. If I leave Ireland, I have to go to an Irish bar. That's just the way it works.
I have 2 reasons. Number 1, and I do go there. I was there a couple times the last time I was there. One reason is because more people at the Tollington recognize you and buy you beers when you're on a podcast.
That was that one dude. That was Dan Roberts. That was it. And we bought him beer.
Well, I ended up buying more beer back. But the second reason is Jeff Lancaster. All right, next question.
What a fucking racist cunt he is.
Jesus. Well, I wasn't going to say the specific reason I didn't like him.
Hairiest player in the Arsenal squad. God, it's easily got to be.
That's a tougher one than you think.
That is a tough one because they're all.
Yeah, because you can see up here, but like you don't know, like do they have a huge tuft that like if you saw their kit was like this, like hanging out of.
Ben White is too well groomed. Emil Smith Rowe and
he
Saka
can't
don't
be
have
hairy
pubic
because
hair
he
yet.
wants to show his tats off.
So, but here's the question though, because these guys are on so much money and they get their haircut weekly. A lot of them probably get waxed, right? Or like
Mohamed El Nani.
So yeah, El Neni for me.
Yeah,
I think we're going 3 for 3 on El Neni. I can't argue against that. Maybe Kolasinac would have been, but he's not an Arsenal player anymore.
Arteta?
I'm going to say cereal is not soup because it's served cold and not warm. And if you eat cold soup, you're
gazpacho, which I think is disgusting. So
Jewish. Is that what? Oh, no.
Dude,
no, matzo ball soup is warm.
Owen, as I've said before, Mike is so 1% in wealth that he eats foods we don't even know what they are. We don't even know what they are.
They only exist in my circles.
They only exist in the Denver International Airport and Mike's Jewish circle.
Okay, yeah, this story deserves telling. Owen may or may not know. I forget which group we were talking about this in last night, but hour or two after the Josh Kroenke interview, we're in Denver. We're jet setting. We head straight to the airport to go to LA for the next round. We're uploading interviews, transcribing everything because this was our moment to become a podcast that has more than 27 listeners. And we're in the airport and I'm starving. We haven't eaten since I gorged myself on hot dogs and nachos in the press box before the game. And so I get a bagel with lox. Okay. They had a bagel with lox and just the look on Andy's face of confusion, anger, 1% jealousy, and like he's just looking at me like, and he's like, "What are those?" I said, "It's lox." And he's like, "What is a lock?" like lock is the lox is salmon on a bagel. It's LOX. He's like, "What is a lock?"
And at that moment, Mike
salmon
realized,
bagel with cream cheese.
This person wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. I could probably dumb it down for him.
Well, you must be completely at the bottom of the scale because this man survived on fish fingers and chips for the entirety of our trip. The last time I was over, so
that's
he's
like
a 4-year-old.
Do you remember the restaurant we went to that we sat at waiting for the food until the scampi came, and it was the best scampi I've ever had in my life.
Mike, for someone who struggles with being overweight, you just keep eating fish. Like, what's happening?
Me?
Yeah. Was Owen eating scampi?
No,
the scampi was breaded and I eat better now, but over there, those Mark Bacryden, I still don't know if it's Bacryden or Bacryden, reached out to me the other day and said he might come up for the Brighton game, and if he does, we're going out for lamb ribs. We're doing lamb ribs because that will be on my diet at the moment that I need it to be. Have you ever had an ex remain as obsessed with you as Emi clearly is with Arsenal? Yeah, her name is Georgia. She's found another man and she's getting married, but I still get love notes from her all the time.
Soon to be Georgia Canton.
Yeah. Would you be happy with Xhaka sticking around a few more seasons, but in a Gundogan type role, part-time starter, vice captain? My answer is yes, Owen.
Yes.
And I wouldn't have said that 3 months ago, honestly.
Same. Yeah.
Will any of Nketiah, Reece Nelson, or Maitland-Niles, who are those guys, be at Arsenal next season? Will any of them be at Arsenal next season?
I think out of the three, I would say Reece Nelson probably has the best chance because it looks like he's playing fairly well in the Dutch league with our friend of the podcast, Cole Bassett.
Ah, nice. Have you talked to? So he's playing on the first team at Feyenoord.
Yeah. I text him congrats and good luck. We had like a brief text exchange, and it was like the
tell him to wish Reece Nelson good luck making the Feyenoord team.
Well, I mean, we have it on pretty good authority, right? That Arsenal are coming here this season. So if there's any player that you don't want on Arsenal, Mike will yell at them aggressively, and they will just be so downtrodden.
Hey, Granit, good luck making the team. I've already had my run-in with Granit Xhaka. I don't need it.
I will say, and I don't know if I told you this, but like, so that scenario happened, but Mike fucking had he had like a binder of questions. You know when you go like, you know when you're in like grade school and you have like a binder with like that flips with paper.
It was a trapper keeper.
I had questions for every fucking player on white paper, and he would like quickly go through. And the one player that got close enough to us was Mustafi, and I went, "Hey, what questions did you have for him?" He sent through me, but I didn't write any for him, and I'm like, "You fucking idiot!"
I just figured he would, he'd be off the team or he'd be dancing at some point.
He was like the one player who kind of sauntered over to us, being like, "You guys want to have a combo? Like, are we gonna chat?"
And so, what'd you ask him?
I panicked, so I didn't yell at him. Good luck making the team, which we should have done. I was just like, I was like, "How are you kids, bro?"
Well, yeah, he was like, "You getting much sleep?" And he's like, "No, not really." And then he like 2-footed and took out.
Do you know what I just found the other day on my phone was the video Lacazette made for one of the girls that I was coaching at the time.
I forgot about that.
And how like it took him like 4 takes to get it perfect. And I was like,
everyone was gone and like on the team bus, and you were still standing there on the pitch with Lacazette like 2 hours later filming this thing. Like, you wanted to get it just right.
And I was like, do I upload this and share it to the world? I feel like it's a little too personal with all the fuck ups, because we were like, he was having a good time with it at that point.
I screwed up about a week or two ago, and there was a horse called American Mike running at Cheltenham, and I got all excited about it, and I put a bet on it through our friend Jack Stevenson, he of the providing of the tickets when I come over with Jake, and he's like, "Okay, well, your horse lost," which I knew. I was watching it, but here's a like a consolation prize, and it was a video of him and Ray Parler together, like consoling me on American Mike's loss, like, which was worth every penny that I had spent on the horse. And I just tweeted it out, and then like 2 hours later, I got another a DM like, "That was private, but okay." I'm like, "Fuck." So there went our chance again to get Ray Parler. Owen, I know you got to run. You're a working man, unlike Andy and I, the entrepreneurs. But it's 11:19 p.m. over there, and you got to go save people's lives.
Yeah, hero that I am. It's been fun. We should probably do this in another 3 months again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do.
I thought you were gonna say like soon, and I was gonna go nah. But when you said 3 months, I was like, yeah.
We'll do one quarterly. Now when I get back from England and caught up from England, we're barely spending time in England. We're actually going on.
So when Mike says when I get back and caught up, so we'll pod next August.
I'll keep that free.
We're going to start podding more regularly. I go back and forth between we're going to do it every 2 days or we're never going to do it again. But I'm just glad people show up to listen to this crap. So Owen, love you, man. Good to see you again.
See you, Owen. Take care, brother.
Take care, boys. Bye.
Let's knock out a few more of David's questions after Owen's gone. Do I need to get you out of here? Or? All right. How many out of Balogun, Aziz, Patino, Flores, and Hutchinson will make it at Arsenal? And by make it, let's say they're in the 18 for the majority of the games in a season. Like,
I think Patino for sure. And I'd say Balogun has a good shot. I don't know enough about the other two or the other three.
I think Hutchinson might be the best of them all at one point, but at some point. But if making it at Arsenal is what we just described, then Tom Canton was wrong because Eddie Nketiah made it at Arsenal.
Yeah,
he might not have been good enough, but he made it.
Failed journal.
Well, he's obsessed with the academy. He's obsessed with young boys. What is the best we can or should expect in terms of numbers of academy players graduating into productive first team roles each season? I mean, if you average one a season, you're doing well, right?
I think if you average one every 5 seasons, you're doing well. I mean,
well, to the star level of a Saka or ES Rowe,
yeah, but what academy players have come through? Like, so at City, you're looking at Foden. Who else? Liverpool.
I mean, there are some guys. I mean, you see a lot of guys with high kit numbers playing in Liverpool, and
but he plays them in like cup competitions, right?
Right. They wouldn't be in the 18 against Crystal Palace during the Premier League season,
right? And then like Chelsea,
Chelsea's a different story.
Mason Mount, maybe.
Well, Tammy Abraham was one, but then because Chelsea pushes people up and out as they replace them from outside with bigger players. So.
Not anymore.
Yeah, no, not anymore. That is right. Spurs, I mean, Kane came through the academy.
Kane came through like 5 other academies before he
started with ours.
Yeah.
I don't want to claim that guy though. Yeah, I mean, they've had a lot that have come through. Winks, I think a couple others, but yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think if you did 2 in any given year, you'd be doing great. So 1 a year would be fine, and the rest are to loan out and sell and keep the kind of the churn going on the incomings, which we've been awful at. Next question from David: would you accept a season ticket if a condition of use was that the holder had to attend each match day barefoot, but you don't have to pay for it? You pay for it and you have to attend each match day barefoot. David, explain. Do I get to go to every game, including travel and all of that, or am I overthinking this?
I think you're overthinking it. I think
I wouldn't mind going to a game barefoot.
You're getting it free, so you're going barefoot. I would take it. Yeah.
I mean, my feet are so immune to anything because I mean they're not. I've shown you pictures of my toenails before.
Yeah, no, I've seen Asian women scream over your feet, and not for a sexual reason. Which member of the Arsenal women's team would be best if suddenly dropped into the men's team? Easily Leah Williamson, because she is a goddess. She's just beautiful, and I'd love to look at her all the time.
But we consider them as footballers, and first and foremost, and in that regard, she's also qualified. Wait, who is? I went to a game when I was over and just came away blown away. I think it was
as a young Irish woman.
She was left. She was a left wing.
Yes,
was either Williamson or Nobbs.
Well, I want to say she's Irish. Who just seen her play a couple times. I don't know if we're talking about the same person, but I thought she's a baller.
I mean, Minama's the obvious answer, I think.
God, who am I thinking about? Let me pull up the squad. Arsenal women's squad.
Oh, Max, appreciate the donation. Please, anyone else that's considering that, and I'm sure I'm talking to thin air right now, but please just go to keepolahere.com and donate to that instead, if you will. But, this is crazy. For some reason, the Mikel song, I haven't actually researched what it was. I know that there was a new song that included his name that was being sung, but I'm an awful Gooner because I couldn't hear it, and I haven't read up on what it is. So I ought to do that before I come over the next couple of months.
Ask Tony Fain. I feel like he knows all of them.
Well, half of those.
Caitlin Ford. No, that's not her.
No, it wasn't Caitlin Ford. I think it was. I think it might have been McCabe. Yeah,
it's Katie McCabe. Yeah, she's a baller. She's Irish.
She was on the left wing, and then we brought in a substitute. I think she was a Japanese player. Amazing close skill, foot skills and stuff. She was incredible. I hate that I'm forgetting the names right now, but and so Katie moved over from left to right and was still incredible.
You don't remember the names because they're women and you don't respect them. That's fine. It is. Currently, 2 Premier League teams are interested in Pogba because Arsenal would be one of those. And would he work next to Partey? I don't think we are one of those because of the wages. I bet Newcastle and
Someone in the chat earlier said Newcastle and Spurs. He hopes.
Well, Spurs couldn't afford his wages. He'd have to take a massive pay cut to what is he on now? Like he's on something.
He's on. I think just like 390 or something like that.
Yeah, but then with his bonuses,
510, he's on 390. The number of players they have that were over 200, which is our highest one now, are absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, he's not going to get 390 anymore, I don't think, and I think he would probably take a pay cut. But he's the exact thing that we don't need from the chemistry of our squad, in my opinion, right now.
All right, I'm going to put this next question up, but here it is, Mike. You have less than a minute to answer this because this is going to be an entirely separate pod. So I'm going to start my phone. Do you want me to give you like timestamps during the minute?
I think it'd be funnier if you do.
Okay. All right. 3.
Is this the financial question?
I'll let you read it. And then, okay, I'm going to give you 3 seconds to read and go.
All right, so when I saw this question come in earlier, I looked at it really quickly, and I wasn't quite sure exactly what the rule was. So I read it quickly online, and basically is saying that instead of the financial fair play rules altogether, I'm talking really fast, they're going to do a 70% of spend ratio on income, which is similar to a salary cap like we have here. But that will hurt teams who are trying to improve their team from the standpoint of, of spending big wages as an investment before those Champions League money and the Europa League money's there. So I thought you were going to give me updates. Am I not
40
even
seconds
left?
Yeah, no, left. No.
So what's up with the rules? I think they are being voted on in about
10 seconds left.
If they get in and they get approved, then it absolutely will change the ability to have high wages, but not high transfer fees.
Oh, 59 seconds, 0.42. Good for
Best
you,
I can do
Mike.
on short notice.
Hey, you know what? You could probably do a whole pod on that. I think that pretty much wraps
up. A whole
up.
pod on fingernails. I mean,
dude.
Okay, let's.
You have to take your foot out of that. I can't. I know that you
what
think
do you mean my feet.
That's your foot.
You keep saying that.
I've got pictures of your feet that you sent me while you're on a beach in Mexico.
Oh yeah, I had when I had the like the little fish biting on them.
No. There was like you were on the beach relaxing, and there was like a bird off it. I was just thinking that bird's gonna come naunch on those nails.
It's like Gary Mabbutt, who had his foot gnawed off by a rat one time, and he didn't know it because he had diabetes.
The babies.
By the way, thank you to our very good friend Mark Mertz from Wisconsin, and to Anonymous for your donations to keepolahere.com. We are now at 2,581 quid, so we're 900 away. We got about a week left. Please go there and just anything you can do, 5 quid, 10 quid, whatever it is, more if you can, would help keep a great person with his family in the place where he belongs, which is anywhere he wants to be, but specifically England. So
is he gonna get deported if we don't get this?
Well, only if he gets caught, but the penalties for getting caught now include up to 4 years imprisonment. So the bigger concern is if, it's his responsibility to renew his papers. If he doesn't, and for some reason it comes to light, whether they find him or if something like if he gets in a car accident that isn't his fault, like it doesn't have to be him doing something wrong. If it comes to light, then he would be considered an overstayer, and there's a lot of problems inherent with that. So,
imagine if
and he's not the type to try to circumvent rules anyway. I mean, he is a loyal, legal, rule-following person. Except I asked him not to take his underpants off when he slept on my couch, and he didn't follow those rules. But when it comes to legal authorities, he's good. So please go and help out as you can. The last question of the day. Favorite Premier League era player name. Think of names like Schmeichel, Venegor of Hesselhink, or Steed Malbrank? Give you a few seconds to think about it, because I think mine would be Muhammad El Hamadadi, or like it just sounded like it was a big cycle. You could have just kept saying it over.
Gotta need more time to think about this.
Muhammad what was it? Muhammad. I'm looking it up. I don't know. That's the first I can think of on short notice.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a short notice one.
How about David Seaman? When we eventually get David Seaman on the podcast, which we should be able to do, I'm not sure I can be able to keep a straight face.
I've got a book of his signed. Where is it? We need to get some gloves of his. Oh, hey, speaking of getting things signed, the cycling jerseys are coming from Lance Armstrong for the Cancer Foundation.
You pulled that off, huh?
Yeah, his guy got back to me. He asked me if I had kits. I wanted to send 2 Lance for him to sign. And so I went onto eBay and bought some like retro ones.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, stay tuned for that. We've got connections. And if you're a cycling fan, I know Lee Dixon might be interested in this, but if you're a cycling fan and love the Arsenal, you can get an Arsenal shirt signed by Lance Armstrong, because little do most people know, he actually played for Arsenal in 1996. So there's that. So yeah, please go to Gooners versus Cancer. Please before you do that, go to keepolahere.com. Help us out. And stay tuned for more announcements on all that. I'm pretty well done here. Stay tuned for an announcement on when our next show will be after the next game. And as always, now on Sunday nights, you can catch me and the GFP on the Burkamp Wonderland doing Sunday Roast, which is kind of turned into something a lot more fun than I even thought it would be. It's just kind of like the last 5 minutes of this podcast. It's just an hour and a half of talking about absolutely nothing, and yet something. And yet,
why haven't I been? Okay, hold on a goddamn second. Okay, why haven't I been it? You didn't ask me if you could do this. You didn't invite me to do it. You and fucking Danny are off in your goddamn treehouse playing, and I'm not getting invited over. This is bullshit.
That's what happens when you disappear to start selling popsicles.
Listen. Regardless,
Danny doesn't sell popsicles.
Danny sells his body for sex. I am sure of it. I don't have proof yet, but I am sure of it. Danny probably has an OnlyFans page. Am I right?
It's private though. OnlyFans.com/Sunday Roast. Yes, I will be unable to do the Sunday Roast. And you're always busy on the weekend anyway with that family of yours. But yeah, when I'm in Europe, there'll be 2 Sunday shows I can't do. So there you go.
Hey, describe what Jake's girlfriend looks like.
Not gonna do that.
You were thinking about it.
That is being recorded. I was thinking about whether I should or not. Suffice it to say, Jake has a girlfriend, officially girlfriend now. And she's lovely and very nice, and they are very, very happy together. So we never see them anymore. But
because they're just banging.
Why do you have to go there?
Because you know that we were all teenagers once. You know that's what's going on. Have you sat down and talked to him about it? Have you given him the birds and the bees, the P and the B chat?
Unlike you, I'm an appropriate father who does not ever use letters like P and V, certainly not in the same sentence. And I think this really needs to end because I've been posting highlights of his football matches on Twitter, and therefore some of his teammates probably might nose around and say, what's this all about?
You're assuming that teenagers want to listen. Like, let's be honest. All of the people who listen to this podcast are middle-aged men from around the world who don't have much going for them, and they come here to watch us lift them up because they go, our lives aren't that bad.
I don't know. David Ziegler seems like a guy who's got a lot going on. All right, so let's finish this off. Anything else you want to promote as our listeners just plunge down to almost zero?
No.
All right.
Thanks everyone for being here. Danny. Teenagers would have stopped 58 minutes ago.
That's true. Yeah.
Nah, I bet Jake lasts way longer than 2
God. All right, enough.
Great.
All right. So thanks for joining us. This has been the Gooners podcast, and we will see you soon.